Hello, lovely people, and welcome to Philanthropic February, day 21. I'm Nicolette, this is Stitches and Slapdashery, and I've got you on a very small tripod on top of a couple of thread boxes because I wanted to show you what my scrap pillow looks like when I've tipped it out. Right there. That, amazingly enough, all fits into that scrap pillow. Incredible, huh? As you can see, there's so much potential in those scraps. So many future projects. It's insane. And in between projects, it's tidily tucked away in the pillowcase. So I love it. I've just spent about another half an hour on my slow stitched 12.5-inch square. I did the grayscale picture as I showed you in yesterday's video, and there was at least one, maybe a couple of the fabrics that stood out a bit too much. So rather than changing those fabrics, I've added more, of course, more. And I have cut some leaves out of a fairly dark green print and some circles out of a bright pink solid. And I've strewn them with a lot of thought, I might add. I didn't just throw them any old where. It's taken me a while to get to this. I have pinned them over the top of what I had last night. I'll give you a quick flash of it, and then I need to do some basting. Good, huh? It's looking a little wild. But synchronistically and luckily, I was watching Annie Claxton's video last night, her latest one, and she was doing another slow stitched project. She had a bunch of scraps that she was using, although her pieces of fabric were way bigger than mine, but I guess she cut a whole bunch of smaller pieces. And she was making a book cover. And so I was watching her lay all her scraps down and glue based them down. And then she did some cantha stitching, which is like an Indian quilting stitch, where they just do tons and tons of running stitch to hold the fabric layers together. And I thought, well, I could do that. That looks easy. But after she'd done the cantha stitch, she was adding extra pieces of fabric and doing extra embroidery around them. So rather than wait to put my leaves and circles on, I've just put them on right at the beginning. I'm going to do probably quite a lot of running stitch, but I'm also going to make the pink circles into something a bit more fancy, and also the leaves, like outline them and probably blanket stitch around them or something like that. I don't know yet. It's one of those things that grows as it grows, and you don't really necessarily plan it out. So I think my pinks and greens are more balanced now. And I'm going to get some basting. You don't need to watch me do that because it's just going to be the sewing thread and not very exciting. So I'll show you a bit more a bit later in the video. I basted my scraps down with this really nondescript pale green thread just to keep everything in place. I didn't want to start embroidering and get my thread caught on the pins. And then I tipped all my embroidery flosses out. This pile is the purple, pink and green collection that I rejected as not being acceptable. These are the ones I think I'm going to pick from. Started with greens. I have a lot of greens thanks to my friend giving me a whole bunch of these things a year or so ago. So I've got tons of greens to choose from in a whole range from dark to light. Tried to avoid the really patently yellow greens because I didn't think they were going to fit. And then got some pinks. Again, trying to avoid the sludgiest colours. Some of them are really sludgy. I've got a range of pinks. And then just to add something, because a third colour always appeals to me, I have some purples as well. Just a few. And you never know, I might bring in some more colours once I figured out what I'm doing. I'll start with some basic running stitch, and then these pink circles may become flowers. And if they do, I might want to put a teeny bit of yellow in the center or something like that. I'm not sure yet. So I need to figure out how to keep these separate from the ones I'm not using. Maybe what I'll do is tip out my Pearl 8 cottons and use this little basket here for the ones I want to keep for this project. Oh, and now I've made a mess. I know there's going to be lots of people cringing at all of my threads. Oh my gosh, it's worse than I thought. It's worse than I thought. So I will find somewhere else to put all of these pearl cottons for now. And I will pop these guys in here. And that way I can just dip my hand in there for this project. Now I need to tidy up again. I don't know if this counts as cheating, but I have used friction pen to draw lines half-inch apart on my work so that when I am doing my running stitch across the fabric, I'm not going all over the place and ending up being completely off track. I also blended 3 strands of embroidery floss together. So I've used, I'll show you the colours on in the skein because it's easier to see. These 3 colours, I've taken a strand of each and I'm going to sew with a blended strand, which is rather fun and exciting. So yeah, this is just going to be really, really, really simple. I don't have to worry about what the back of the work looks like because I am going to be lining it. And I'm not going to worry about making teeny tiny stitches or particularly neat stitches. This is just going to hold everything together in a nice way as my first bit of stitching on it. And then once I've done all the running stitches, I can start doing something a bit more decorative. Getting little bits of threads everywhere from the fraying fabric. Very annoying. Have to make sure that these threads are all sitting smooth and not feeding through at different rates. And that my little fabric scraps are not separating out and leaving gaps so that you can see the batting. when I get to the end, I'm going to go down to the next line on the back of the fabric. Obviously, when I sew the scrap fabric and the lining together, right sides together, and then flip them out, any messy edges are going to get hidden away. And I'm going to try and keep it enough away from the batting so that if I have to trim it straight, I hopefully don't cut my thread. I don't want anything coming undone. I'm glad I thought of blending the threads together, because it means that it won't have like a pink section and a purple section and a green section, because I'll have a bit of everything all the way through. And when I'm finished this, the friction pen will iron off. I just won't be able to take it outside while it's -13 out in case the lines come back. Unlikely. And anyway, when we went walking just now, it was not -13. It was, what was it? Probably around 1 degree Celsius. And as usual, I got far too hot and ended up taking my coat off for the last bit. It's a little thicker here. Oops, I think I just hit the tripod. Because I've got extra layers where I've added in the circles and the leaves, it's going to be just a little bit firmer, and I'll only be able to do maybe maximum of 2 stitches at a time. Whereas on the thinner sections, I can do 3. Darn! My needle became unthreaded. Don't like to pull the thread too tight because I don't want my fabric to pucker too much, but then if I don't, then the 3 strands of embroidery thread don't always sit nicely. I'll get into the flow of things soon. Do you find it takes a while to get into something when you're starting something new? Sometimes it feels a little clumsy, but by the time you've finished it, you feel like you've got the flow. Ouch. Stabbed my thumb. And I unthreaded my needle again. I'm very grateful to the person who told me that you could grab one strand of thread and just pull it out like that. And then if you're careful, it doesn't get tangled. And then you also have to be careful to put it aside somewhere where it's not going to catch on anything. So that's one little strand of pink. As usual, my cuticles are in a shocking state. There we go, one strand of green. How satisfying is that? I'm also very grateful to someone called Lorna who tagged me on Instagram today. She said she was having a nice time watching one of my videos, and she actually had a photograph of her current project lying on her laptop keyboard, and she had my video, because it was a photo, not a video, but she had me in the background on her laptop screen talking on one of my vlogs, and that was so exciting. So thanks, Lorna. You made my day. What's awesome is to know that there are people out there who are enjoying my vlogs enough to watch me and my little witterings, and makes me feel like it's worth keeping on, if you know what I mean. Hey, we've got the purple, the green. What happened to my pink piece? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So when I've put the 3 different strands together, I have to make them a little bit wet on the end and then trim them so that they're even, because otherwise they won't go in my needle very well. So it looks like the length I have cut is going to do 2 passes across the work. So my 6 strands will see me through 12 lines of stitching. Oh, that doesn't look lined up, does it? I'm expecting an interruption at any minute. We didn't do pizza night last night, as our usual Friday, because we were all really busy and home quite late from work. So it was decided we'd do it tonight. With any luck, the youngest son will get the dough made, as he normally does, and I won't get bugged until it's time to cut up toppings. Oh boy, my thread's catching on every single little thing. I'm doing this through the phone camera. I'm sure I'll be a lot quicker when I'm just sewing away without the camera in the way. Just wanted to show you a little bit of the stitching process. And my stitches are not all uniform in length. They are all over the place, but you know what? I don't mind. I also don't use a thimble. I find it just makes me feel really clumsy. It's later in the evening now, and I am rather pleased that I have got all my running stitch done across the whole piece. And I've also ironed it briefly just to make sure all of the friction pen lines are gone. So it's all nicely anchored down and ready for me to tackle some more at my next slow stitch session. Blending those 3 colours was a really good idea. I'm glad I thought of it. So putting those 3 together meant that all 3 colours are in there already. They didn't feed through particularly smoothly together in places, but I can always work over those places later if I want to with some more embroidery. So these are my colours that I've got on the sidelines, ready to do some more. I might keep these separate now so I don't use them again, because I want to use some different ones for the next lot of embroidery. Tuck my little needles in there, and yes, I feel like I've done plenty on this today. My poor old eyes struggle with close work these days. They really do. So that's going to be enough of that for today. Briefly, just before we sign off, I'm going to show you the progress on the Melt the ICE Toque, which I'll be linking underneath the video as usual. The ribbing has grown quite considerably. I think it has. Well, maybe a little bit. I'm not quite at the 6 inches yet. Maybe about an inch away. Okay, I seem to remember the last time I measured it was 4 inches, so I've done a whole inch since I last showed you it. Okay, that doesn't sound so impressive, does it? Never mind. I got some of this done while I was watching BritBox earlier. I've been watching Grace, which is a UK police drama. I really like that one. And I discovered that they had, I think it's season 5 up there. And I've been enjoying that. So I did a little bit of knitting while the pizzas were baking. And then for the little mushroom bag that I've been testing out for somebody, the crochet design, when I was at work, oh, sorry for the loud clatter there. When I was at work yesterday, I attacked the strap. And I managed to get a little bit of that done while I was on my lunch. I have a 30-minute break, and for the first half of it, of course, I have to eat something and allow for brushing teeth and going to the bathroom. But the other half of it, I was able to do a little bit of Tunisian simple stitch. It does curl quite a lot, especially when you put some stretch in it. So I guess it's going to be looking quite curly when it's being worn, because there will be some weight in the bag. I did think that maybe instead of crocheting a strap, I could use some of my webbing. But I think I'm going to use the yarn. I've got tons of it, and it'll match the bag. So that's me for today. That's it for now. It is Saturday night for me. When you see this, it won't, well, it depends when you watch it, obviously, but the soonest you'll see it is Sunday morning, February 22nd. So I'm going to, sometime tomorrow, I'm going to do the draw for the mushroom earrings, and I'll probably do it in time to have them made tomorrow as well. So when I announce the winner tomorrow, I will be getting those earrings done, and I will need to hear back from the winner with their mailing address. Exciting stuff. I'll see you tomorrow. Hope you're having a great weekend, and bye for now.